It's just half-assing. Like, why would you half-ass it? Just full ass it. You have 2 whole cheeks. Please full ass. Please do not half giot COVID safety. You need to full giot. Right? You never half giot. Yeah, Dan Clancy's coughing on the fucking servers. Yeah, TwitchCon was such a super spreader, even the servers are sick.
Right. You go to the gay bathhouse, there's a banner over the entire thing. It says, COVID shot and a cum shot. Come on down. CUM on down. Boom. There you go.
Yeah, I have like 7,000 felonies on my record, and I've killed 3 people, like those people.
You've done nothing wrong. I have sinned. I have strayed far from God's light, and I'm going to hell. Again, still do not touch, hug, kiss, have sex with, deep throat, tongue, cook, eat a dead bird, and do not do that. That is bad. Brother, I'll tell you what. It's time for all them Second Amendment people to go out and get their firearms. Okay, we're going to get our guns. We're going to exercise our Second Amendment right. We're going to shoot all them goddamn birds out of the sky. We're going to shoot them dead so that way we don't have to worry about them being dead because we did it. Not no stinking commie pinko virus. Shoot all birds.
Say, I don't have COVID. See, I swabbed my hole, which is not what you're supposed to do at all.
Hello, I see you.
Greetings, brother in darkness.
Oh. Welcome.
What's up, dude?
Yo. Hey, with the drip beanie. What's the story there? Is there one, or is it just I have a beanie and it's that color?
Because that's pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just I have a beanie and it's that color. My black one tore, so I'm in the market for a new one. Dude, I swear, the moment they make a black N95, I am literally just changing my entire wardrobe to be like gothic. I'm never gonna wear colors.
Fuck yeah! I mean, they don't have a black N95.
Like a couple other companies do, but like not the main one that makes them. So it's like, those are a little sketchier, and they're American made, and most things made in America, as I'm sure you know, are kind of dog shit. So
right,
I'm skeptical.
Like me, I was made here. I'm fucking terrible.
Well, aren't we all? We're all going straight to hell if that's the criteria.
Pretty much. But I don't know. It seems like the alternative seems kind of. I don't know. I guess it depends on which alternative you're talking about, right? I don't know,
yeah.
Like, which version of heaven is what I'm getting at. Because I'm assuming there's just versions of everything when you're talking about, when you're talking about Bible stories or when you're talking about variants, right? How many variants are we at now?
Too many to count. I think if you're counting all the Omicrons, I think we're probably somewhere in like the 3,000s.
Okay. Whoa. Holy shit. Okay. That is.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But yeah.
I mean, not every one of them like means anything, but it's emblematic of how like we've just stopped giving a shit. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, I guess you haven't stopped giving a shit, I suppose, right? Like, you are still actively covering COVID and vaccinations and science, misinformation, disinformation, all that kind of stuff. For anyone who doesn't know, Homozygoat, also known as Marcus, is what I will refer to you as oftentimes. You do science education on your stream. I guess I would even describe it as like science literacy, media literacy surrounding subjects about science, particularly in this case. What would it be? I'm losing the very last part of my sentence. I know it's like transmissible diseases and help me finish that if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I cover kind of a gamut of things these days because I initially started with COVID. Obviously, like that's what brought me here was the need to tell people what the hell was going on, because I would have to sort of sift through this anyways for my immunocompromised family. Like needed to figure out what the hell. So I figured if they're asking me these kinds of questions, they're probably not the only ones asking these kinds of questions. So that's what brought me here, 3 years ago, and. I think in the process of doing this for a couple of years now, I've really started to see there's quite a lot of problems, like you said, with media literacy, with scientific literacy, but also just in general, like really awful politics kind of coloring people's perceptions of science. So,
Yep.
no, there's a giant sort of a leftist political slant that I put on all of it because that's where, quite frankly, all the data points is like to a society that should be governed not only by science but also by a more like leftist political worldview. And those two things in tandem, I think, would make society a lot better and get us to where we need to go. But I've really started to, I think, expand into covering climate change and the science behind climate more often because it's the same like mentality that people have that they treat COVID with that they also treat climate change with, right? This inexorable thing in the background that's operating and that there's nothing that they can do about it or that they don't need to pay attention. And so my kind of role is to like proverbially grab them by the shoulders and shock them out of that. Be like, no, okay, we need to start like looking into the abyss a little bit here because shit's going on that will affect you both right now and very much into the future. So like none of this is going away.
You're asking me if
probably going to get worse,
folks.
especially with respect to climate. So that's just a little bit about what I do. Is it's more or less just a giant like plea from the institution of science to like, hey, let's actually start figuring some of this shit out.
Like, you mean the fact that like you can do all this rigorous scientific analysis, proof again, and then retesting theories and knowing like, hey, we have this rock solid, and then just have like entire segments of the population rejected on like almost nothing, right? Like just
vibes,
superstition. Yeah. So yeah, how do you address that part of it? Is definitely like a good.
I'm not gonna make a big deal.
A good way of thinking of it, though, albeit depressing. And I guess it kind of gets towards like something that, oh my God, the sound alerts are like, I'm really trying not to be distracted by them, but they're all dick related. And that is a thing that is happening.
Here's a door. You can fuck off.
I mean, I'm no stranger to such a concept.
Some of them are you. So, yeah, some of them.
Oh, well, there you go. See, even better.
It's like, which Marcus?
Multiple cocks. Well.
But yeah, so like
many cocks.
we're kind of like, we were just talking with Talorx in October about different interpretations of the Bible, and like even if you just take this one like Abrahamic religion and you examine it from like a academic or scientific perspective, or like you try to be more objective about how you look at it historically, looking at things like language, you quickly find that like even their belief in their own religion, superstition, whatever it is not even based in like a solid understanding of their own sort of like a source material, right? Like they're operating from, again, the vibes thing. So that is a very strong through line, whether we're talking about people denying, I guess, climate change or the existence of COVID, which is just insane. Like, you're denying the existence of COVID. Really, that's what you're doing? Okay. I mean,
there's so many different like layers. It's all a giant onion, and people just based on their vibe decide what part of the onion they want to be part of. And it goes, like you said, starting from like the deniers, people who are like now starting to become like anti-germ theory as a whole. And believe me, that demographic is starting to grow. There are people who just elect to just go full hog.
That won't lead to any problems. No, we didn't.
Yeah, totally.
We didn't have problems with that in the past or anything, right? Like when they thought it was miasma or whatever. Is that only one of the prior theories that we had about explaining why shit made you sick?
Well, I mean that's what's unfortunate is like it kind of is in the air actually, but it's not because of just like a bad vibe in the air because you didn't like go to church enough. It's because there's something microscopic that you can't see that's in the air.
But bro, I clearly saw that raven land on that post, and then like he spun around 3 times, and like if he spun around 2, then you know it's good shit. But it was 3, so that's why fucking grandma's dead.
Yeah, you didn't you didn't open and close the door 10 times before crossing the threshold. So grandpa's in the hospital now. You fucking loser. Get a grip.
Wow. Next time, try not to kill your grandparent by not knowing the rules of reality.
I mean, look, like that's unfortunately the natural outcome of like not giving a fuck about COVID is that everybody's grandparents are just getting picked off one by one. Like even right now in the U.S., we still had like I don't know, like 1,200 people died last week, and it's
Jesus
currently sitting
fucking
at
Christ.
about an average of 1,000 a week. So it's like,
Are you kidding me right now?
no, no, that's what that's what's still been going on.
I just feel like I should react that way, but it's also kind of like it became numb to it.
I mean,
remember
everyone's numb to it. I mean, that's by design. Like that's what we have to unfortunately avoid.
Why can't I hire any workers? Oh my gosh, nobody wants to work. There's people dropping dead, bro, by the thousands. Not to mention all of the economic issues that lead people to not want to work for your shitty company, or the fact that you're just probably not a very nice person to be around. Like, it's just
yeah. Oh
again,
yeah. I mean,
we can't even address what's causing the other problems as a result of that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's getting even more insidious than that. I think last week I saw a statistic that basically said the amount of people below the age of 45 that actually can hold down a job but are now disabled has doubled since the start of COVID. So it's like, I think somewhere between 4 and 5% of all workers below the age of 45 have a disability now, and that number, like the line, is trending upward. So, that's not going to go away anytime soon. And that whole mentality of like, why can't we find anybody to work these shitty jobs? Nobody wants to work anymore. Like, nobody can work anymore. The amount of jobs that people can hold down is going down because of disability, and because your workplace is fostering the advent of that disability. And I mean, we know. I think it was a California state Supreme Court ruling basically said, in the case of one person suing his employer because he got COVID at work and then gave it to his wife, and his wife died. He sued his workplace, basically saying like, y'all didn't give us masks or do any COVID safety, so like you're responsible. And the California State Supreme Court basically rejected that argument, but also accepted it. They said, look, you're right. Like, you're 100% right. But if we set a legal precedent for this, every single employer everywhere is responsible, and that would like crash the economy. So we're going to reject this. Like, the California State Supreme Court literally said that shit.
Right.
So
oh my God, man.
it's like we're all boiling frogs in a pot, and the powers that be have decided to put us there and then tell us that, hey, you belong in the pot. It's going to get hot now, so enjoy. Just spend all your money first before you boil. And people are content to just boil, and that's what drives me just bonkers. It's like, why are you not as mad as I am? Like, do you have no self-respect? Fucking get a grip. Let's go.
I mean, that's where I think a lot of times the conspiracism or superstition or rejection of what would it be, anti-empiricism, that kind of thing, is like a coping mechanism oftentimes for people, because it's like, it's so much easier to just blame some shit that like you can't really, like, no one can really call you on it because there's no method for calling you on it other than being like, once you've rejected the actual ability to call people on their theories for why things happen, then you lose, and again, it's comforting. It's like, it's way more comforting to believe, for example, that when you die, there's like something afterwards or whatever.
Wrong about that.
Although I don't actually feel that way now. I used to feel that way because I was raised that way. Now I'm kind of like, bitch, I'm not trying to stay. Like, just, can I die and then be gone? Like, no existence. That's cool. Like, it makes life seem more, I don't know, makes it
meaningful,
seem more worthwhile, meaningful. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the whole like, the afterlife is my salvation, therefore it doesn't matter what I do on planet Earth. Like, that mentality also just drives me up a wall, because it's like, the whole point of religion is supposed to like compel you to do good things on Earth, so you're deemed worthy of like eternal salvation, not for you to just be a complete shitheel and then expect the like Staples easy button of forgiveness to be pressed the moment you hit purgatory. Like, that's not how that shit was written. And I think that's a very convenient, almost like, you could really extend it to capitalism and say, it's a very pro-capitalistic interpretation of religion to basically say, you can create a winning group of people and a losing group of people, a capitalistic underclass for the economy to run on, and it doesn't matter because a space wizard will forgive you at the end of the day, and people can just happily buy into that system and sort of take on that very individualistic framework of like, all I need to do is like read the Bible and repent and I'm good. When that's nowhere near the case.
Fucked up things that I'm doing, whether it's like on a societal level, I'm contributing towards this like broader mass death, or like rejection of science that leads to all these horrible outcomes, or individually, like I'm abusing somebody in my family, and then like not only am I going to repent for that to like atone for my sins, and I know Jesus will forgive me because obviously he died for my sins, but like you're going to have to forgive me too, the person I abused, because that's the way it works. Like there's never any recognition of like, you know, again, it's like there's no recognition of the actual cause and effect of things. You just have to move on, I guess. We've already figured that out. No. We've already figured that out. We know. So, yeah, I did want to touch on the disability thing for a minute again, because
go ahead.
I know a little bit about the history of like, not a lot, but I know a little bit about the history of the ADL, Americans with Disabilities, or ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, and how like, you know, I worked with this guy for a while. He's completely blind. He doesn't even have his real eyes anymore. He has glass eyes, and he lost his sight over time and everything. And you know, he was always a news reporter, and like once he had lost his vision, he started producing this podcast. So that's how I met him. I was helping him like produce this podcast about blind people, and he told me about the ADA, and he showed me pictures on his computer and stuff, or of like, you know, people with disabilities protesting for the ADA pre-passage, like, and being dragged out of like the halls of Congress and stuff. And like, you know, I was raised indoctrinated. I was homeschooled and all of these things. I missed out on a lot of American history, and broadly speaking, a lot of students in the United States miss out on all kinds of American history, particularly the bad kinds, the bad things. But that one almost kind of shocked me. Like, this is something that we take for granted. All of these, like, you know, if you're somebody who can't support themselves, like can't support their weight in a restroom, like you have a handlebar to hold on to, and there's like, if you're in a wheelchair, you can get into a building. You're not like discriminated against or excluded. And they had to literally like put their bodies on the line to fight for that. And like, it's interesting, you know, in the context of what you're saying with like all of these people who are now categorized as disabled, it's like that fight has to happen again. And like, not that it was ever over, or that like the changes that happened were extensive enough to begin with, but like that is going to be a significant political issue moving forward. Like, if what you're saying is true, and I wholeheartedly believe that it is.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know last week there was actually a big initiative to have folks call their congresspeople. I think the website is still up. It's longcovidmoonshot.com, which basically lays out like a specific set of like bills to call your congresspeople to ask them to pass, and basically ask them for continued investment in long COVID research to the tune of $1 billion a year for the next decade, because this is not going away. I think the statistic that I've read is that 93% of all people who get long COVID don't recover. So that's when you look at the scale of what COVID has done and continues to do, and just how many people keep getting sick. Like right now, we're probably chilling around like, I don't know, like 450,000 cases a day, and we're like just getting started with our winter wave. Like we haven't even really like gotten into the swing of it. But when you look around the world, in Europe, like, or not even the US, but Europe, they're setting records for wastewater levels of COVID right now. Like even things that weren't thought to be possible in terms of like, oh, it'll never be this bad again. Well, now they're starting to set records because everybody's just decided to do nothing about it. So when we look at how that affects disability and the amount of people who now like have a disability, that number is going to be severely undercounted. We're not going to be able to truly appreciate just how many people that are, because the scale is, I think, just unfathomable from what we're used to dealing with when it comes to other disabilities before COVID began. We're used to just having that be a very like small, easy to dismiss group of people, and we can look at society and capitalism using eugenics to do that. Basically, it's saying they're not worth anything anyways. Their bodies are broken. They shouldn't be reproducing. That's what they believe. Right. And as a consequence, we're not going to give them the small marginal benefits like having a guardrail to hold on to, or a ramp that's actually sufficient to like roll a wheelchair up when disabled people are trying to get around. So,
or even
these little
like just accommodations for remote work. They're like, no, you can't have that, even though it's actually better for everyone, because you have to you're going to clog up traffic, and you're going to contribute towards all of these other fucking problems that exist as a result of our like fucked up dehumanizing economic system. You can't even have that. No, you can't even have that. We'll take that away from you too, even if you literally need it or can't work.
Yeah, and I mean that's I think another extension of eugenics is, we will, if you can't survive the workplace hazards we're exposing you to, in that mentality, you're not fit to be alive. Like it's very socially Darwinian in the way that our economy and the people that ultimately like control it, and when I say the people, I mean like the rich capitalists.
Yep.
Those people ultimately decide that, okay, if you can't survive, if you get a disability, or if you die because you were forced to come back to the office, then there's going to be another desperate body somewhere looking to fill that position, because we've created an underclass full of people looking to, claw and get what they need because we've deprived them of it. So when you have a group of people who are just hungry and starving and trying to make any sort of upward class mobility in society, people already in decent stations in life will just be exposed to bullshit and increasingly hazardous workplaces, their remote work applications, and desires will be denied and rejected, and they'll be in a position where they're just exposed to COVID constantly and falling apart at the seams. And with respect to disabled people, I mean, even before COVID, like you said, there's been minimal workplace accommodation, and even with the ADA conferring what leverage disabled people can actually use to their advantage in society, it goes nowhere near far enough. Like, hell, I just saw today there was a video of one of the accommodations that ostensibly is put forth by this, where like disabled people are having their wheelchairs put onto planes and stuff, and just the people responsible for doing that are manhandling the things to the point where they're falling apart. Like, they're just straight up breaking people's wheelchairs, which is a known problem. So it's like, just because accommodations technically are a thing that can be implemented doesn't mean that it's happening, or that if it is, it's being done right. So just every little facet of this, like that we just kind of mentioned, is what people with long COVID are now just starting to discover. And I think that's been an awakening for a lot of people who've unfortunately been on the receiving end of long COVID, is like, oh shit, this is what it's like to be disabled. I never knew this until it happened to me. And that's a very American mentality of, it's not going to happen to me. I'm fine. I'm young. I'm healthy. And then when it does happen to some people, it's like, oh shit, maybe we should have done something about this. And for some of those people, it might be too late to prevent it. And now the name of the game becomes trying to manage and to get by. So that's why I focus so much on preventing as many COVID cases as possible, because the rate at which people are starting to get long COVID, I mean, it's like 10% chance on your first infection while vaccinated. And then if it's your second one, that goes up to 20. And not every form of long COVID is going to like put you in a wheelchair and make you bedbound, but some of them do. Like, I think it's 25% of all people who have long COVID. I mean,
that's worst case scenario too. Like,
so,
I mean, that's worst case scenario too, right? Like, what if your job is highly technical, or requires a ton of focus, or all of these things, and like suddenly you're experiencing like significant levels of brain fog, or like just exhaustion, or like even depression, anxiety, or like the types of things that can be a result of that illness and others, right? Like, that can be such a major factor in like your overall mental health, your job performance, and your ability to like maintain a job long term. And that's, I guess, where it's especially important when you're, I guess, advocating for or discussing those policy implementations where, we put a ton of funding into researching all this stuff. It's like, I think we've researched space grade auto cloaking cluster bomb heat seeking missile fucking satellite destroying whatever the fuck we're researching. Okay, I think we've done enough. Like, we're good to go, right?
Yeah,
unless it's solely for the purpose of going into space to like escape the heat death planet that we're creating, then yeah, no.
Yeah, we have Rick and Morty technology when it comes to like doing genocide in Gaza. Like that's where we're at right now.
So fucking real too, dude. Like, it's crazy. It's just, It's not crazy though. I guess, like, to touch on something you said about how people will not recognize this thing about disability, or they won't empathize with it. Like, this is something that we talked about with Amy C3 earlier about, being unhoused, and like how it can be hard to imagine yourself in that position. And then suddenly people get in the position, or they see it in front of them. Oftentimes then they won't even empathize. But like, you get there and suddenly you can empathize. And I think the lesson there, I would say is like we should learn to do that before everyone is fucking dying and in the streets. You know, maybe like empathize with the dying and people in the streets first before you end up there, because that's the trajectory, generally speaking. Would you agree?
I mean that's what society sets us up for, is a society where if something happens to us, then we're toast, and a society where we are encouraged to only give a shit about ourselves and not think communally, right? It's the rugged American individualism that is so pervasive, so rampant, and even in our circles, I've already done my fair share of leftist infighting in the past week, so I'm not going to start shit here. But I mean, there are plenty of people whose emotes I see everywhere, and plenty of streamers that we both know who've done the same shit too. Like for so many people, just in general, the individualism it kicks in. It's a very hard habit to kick, but that's what we're supposed to be doing as leftists, is trying to reframe a lot of our issues as communal issues. This affects all of us. We are all in the same boat when it comes to what capitalism is doing to us, when it comes to what we need to do to at least get by and keep ourselves safe on a daily basis. Very basic things like mask mutual aid, giving people rides to pharmacies to get vaccines, like putting on a mask. Like that's been so contentious for me to even agitate on Twitch about, to get people to consider that at the very least. One of the most easy solutions. It's dirt cheap. It's very, very effective. It's variant proof, so you don't have to chase variants like you do with the vaccines. Like it's so effective, so easy. But everybody runs in the opposite direction, because for them on an individual basis, it's not convenient. It's really not convenient. But that's what happens.
I mean, it's not convenient because of the social pressure, though. It's not like it's hard to put on a fucking mask. It's just the stigmatization artificially of like, you're wearing a mask. Like, yes.
The other end.
Yeah. It's like having a fucking life jacket in my boat. You know what I mean? Like, are you going to fucking call me a pussy because of that? And like, whatever you're going to say is fucking stupid. You're wrong. Like, but it is hard, because I mean, where I live, like, you are just targeted. I mean, whatever. They know I'm the reporter here anyway, so they already like, give me the speak guy.
But I mean, that's the thing, is like, we will get grief for doing that. And that's wild. I think somebody on Twitter predicted that a very long time ago, that people who wear masks are going to be targeted with the passage of time. And that's been true. But at the same time, like, the normalization of such a thing is very important, because that helps reduce the social pressure. The more people that are out there wearing one, the more that people who are not are going to be like, oh, maybe I should. Maybe there's something to wear a mask about. And that's not going to get everyone, of course. But it'll rope some people back in. I mean, look, the stat is 70% of America would put one back on if the CDC told them to tomorrow.
Hey, dude.
It's literally that simple. We could have 70% mask rate if the CDC just said the word. But when you look at every single one of their communications, masking is always the last thing mentioned, if it's even mentioned at all. And the language is always equivocating. It's not, you should wear a mask. It's, well, if you really feel like it and the wind's blowing on a certain direction on a Tuesday afternoon, then you can maybe consider the idea. And it's like, that's not public health. That's capitalism trying to make people more comfortable with going outside and not reminding them that there is something to wear a mask for. It's optics. It's literally just shitlib optics that the CDC has allowed themselves to be corrupted by. And that's all courtesy of Brandon. Not that Trump was going to be any better on that. But at least Trump said the quiet part out loud, because he's a belligerent oaf. So it's very insidious that the Biden administration just sweeps all of this under the rug and acts like everything's fine and you can just get your vaccines and be done, because that's never been the case. It's never been the case. And we're, I think, going to be in store for a very ugly winter, because we have a brand new variant with what is it, like 36 new mutations that just came out of left field. And that's what's driving record wastewater in Europe to some degree. So
it's fine. Whatever. It's a natural immunity or something.
I mean, you joke, but people will say like, "Yeah, I got my vaccine."
I'm not. I'm. The joke is because that's the only way I can deal with the fucking shit I hear. Like, I haven't heard from Price Stupa in a minute. I don't know if he's like lurking. I don't know if he's like plotting. He's gonna fucking. Ivermectin supply website. I don't fucking know what he's gonna do. But like, this is the shit that we hear all the time, and it's been very fucking disappointing. I mean, last time I talked to you, we talked about the public health department here, and they you know, what's been extremely disappointing is that their advocacy for getting rid of COVID vaccinations or distributing them in the county is constantly reinforced by the leadership within the county. And there's nobody who's going to, I mean, maybe if we talk about the mask thing again, like if I can just rile up the libs again around here, like when they recalled the last commissioner, then maybe they come in and start fighting against that shit. But I mean, how many times is Doc Bob going to show up and explain basic shit to these people and like, I don't even know.
Well, see, but that's the thing is like you can't like I think what that situation that you just described.
Yeah.
It actually just proves you can't just like throw facts at people and have them comply. Like it's not a fact-based thing. The facts come second. It's the vibes that comes first, and that goes back to everything being just liberal aesthetic, which is so frustrating because like that's not how society should function. Like we just direct people into voting because voting is largely a vibes-based activity. Like people just feel certain ways about certain things, and you know we don't teach people how to like evaluate things critically and do so on a factual basis, so that way we can like approach a given situation where the facts come first, and then we can talk about what to do in light of those facts, which are true, regardless of what anybody thinks or feels or not. I know that's a radical concept, but like academia writ large has just decided to just shove information down people's throats and expect them to get it. And that like situation you described with your local public health situation with like the county commissioner, like that is emblematic of you can't just have like outside experts come in and just repeat why masks are good for the nth time. You have to have the political will and the spine first, and then you can sit people down and educate them with the facts afterwards. But you have to essentially, I don't know if dominate's really the right word, but you have to muscle out the hogs. Like that's what has to happen is you have to do what you know is right and not give in and kowtow to either capitalistic pressure or right-wing agitation, because both will always be omnipresent forces, and oftentimes they're indistinguishable from each other. So it's just we need people with a spine and a backbone to actually just go forth and just make this happen. Like,
but
and again, like we have courts that are captured by right wingers, but mandates again, just you have to drag people kicking and screaming when they're kicking and screaming as a starting position. Like you got to drag them into the future. Most people will comply when you have an authority saying this is how it's going to be now. So deal with
it. Especially when they would have done it anyways, but they were just like going with the mob mentality of like, oh, no one else is doing it. Well, I'm not going to do it then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You need authority to just say this is how it's going to be now. If you want to comply, here's what you do. If you don't, there's consequences for that. Like. That you need to invoke authority. It's the lowercase a authoritarianism that is just so difficult for people to wrap their heads around, because they feel like their liberties are taken away, or this is all a backdoor to take away their choices or something.
That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing though, because it's like, but they'll extend it onto the most ridiculous of things. Like even this in and of itself is ridiculous, to just reject like the scientific evidence about how these things work to everyone's detriment. But they'll take it to like, they're totally contradictory though, because they'll sit around and talk about my private rights, my private business owners' rights, my private this, my private that. But what's gonna happen if somebody wants to fucking open a bar here that does drag shows? Or do you think that people are going to show the fuck up to town council and bitch about it and say you should take away their right to have their private business? Absolutely, because it happens all the fucking time. So like, I don't know how you muscle them out though. So that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, so I mean, if we're talking about like a council, like a local council, I mean, you just have to stack the deck. Like if we're talking electoralism, you got to just have enough people run for that and win election who all are on the same page as to what needs to be done. And that's what gets so frustrating.
Yeah.
Like electoralism is what it is. Like I'm never not going to vote. Like I will always vote, but I think people are starting to come to realize that like voting only gets you so far, and there's more work to be done after you're done voting. And when it comes to that, like
pressure, you got.
That's what's so difficult to get these things to be implemented. Like if you had a private business that was on board with this, then they could probably mandate it within the walls of their private business. But like, good luck getting any private business in your area or a red area to do that. Like that's going to be very, very difficult, and that's because of the political worldview. So like everything, it's the politics and the vibes that comes first that affect the downstream implementation or lack thereof of the science. So it, I think, and I'm hoping I'm right on this. I think with the passage of time, people will slowly but surely come around. I'm seeing a lot more consistent masking, potentially because it's winter. But I think people are now starting to realize that, like, consistent mass infections actually hurting them and hurting people that they know. The more common this becomes, the harder it is it's going to be to sweep under the rug.
Or you can just blame it on the vaccine and say, "Oh, it's because of the vaccine." Like
well, that's Twitter. That's all of Elon's Twitter. Every time something even remotely COVID related is trending on Twitter, whatever it's trying to serve me, it's like, oh great, what conspiracy have the right wingers decided to arrive at again? What organ is Pfizer making explode today?
The circle of life continues. Fucking
literally
arrived back at their same bullshit again. Let's talk. Guess we're talking about this again or not? Yeah, I guess maybe quickly we could come back to like I've talked about this in 3 separate conversations today. The empathy thing, or like, because as leftists or people advocating for, what we believe to be like objectively true positions, that will benefit everyone if we can sort of recognize them and implement appropriate practices, like. We have to have some empathy, and I think you generally do a good job of this on your channel, like, because you're a science educator and like people come in and they say weird shit, like, as long as they're not just trolls and they're boring or whatever, like, maybe they have a opinion that a lot of people would get triggered by, understandably. Like, you have somebody, whatever issue it's on, like, you have somebody in your family who died from COVID or is experiencing issues or et cetera, so on and so forth. You see some dipshit saying some dumbass bullshit that is wrong, or at least that's the way you view it. That's the way my mind goes oftentimes. But you do a very good job of like being like, well, actually, and like it takes that level of empathy to not like just go and fly off the handle and like be like, you're fucking dumb and wrong and stupid, ban. Like, because that's where sometimes I feel like my brain goes. But that requires
that's
empathy
the thing
as well.
Yeah, like, it's difficult because empathy is like, it's a very difficult thing to teach. Like, there is no empathy class that we all get in the education system where we're sat down in a room and taught to like share and be nice to other kids. So hopefully those values stick as an adult. Those are things that, like, I'm not trying to make like an essentialist argument. Like, you're not necessarily born with or without it, but like, I think life experiences are something that really helps solidify it. And when we create a society that prioritizes the individual over the collective, I think it becomes more difficult for people to like really start to like connect with others and feel for them, right? It's a society where people are taught and encouraged to think only about themselves and not about other people. So I think if we had different environments where people were sort of I don't know if, again, reared is the right word, but if our sort of collective experiences growing up were more centered around empathy or more centered around community or centered around groups of people sort of cohabitating, like if we had a different mentality from the top down given to us when we were kids, then we could age into adulthood and look around and feel like the people that we live next to or go to work with actually have our back. And that's something that I think I really struggled with during COVID. I think still to some extent I continue to, because I think it was last year, my own advisor exposed me to COVID. Another lab mate exposed me to COVID like a couple weeks afterwards. 2 of them, I think in 2021, basically said, I'm never wearing a mask again. If I die, I die. And another one said they're going to have to like strap me down and put a mask back on me if I put one on. And in all of the situations, the thought in my head was like, you didn't think about anybody else before doing any of this or saying any of this, did you? Like, not one moment went into your head where you thought about somebody that's not you. You were only focused on yourself. And like, how do you teach somebody in a moment to not do that? Like, I can push back, of course, which I did, because I feel like I have a moral responsibility to do that. But at the end of the day, you can't fix that in an instant. It's a problem that is just always kind of beneath the floorboards. And needs to be brought out more into the light for people to just wrestle with. Like, we need to be thinking more about others first, and hopefully the people around us are doing the same. So that way we're all operating as a starting point of taking care of each other, doing what we can for each other, being people for others, because that ultimately is going to change how we approach insert issue here, whether it's, you know, genocide in Gaza, where we're thinking about, oh my God, what are these poor Palestinian people experiencing right now? What are the anti-Zionist Israelis experiencing right now with their fascist government? Like, we can apply that concept to literally any political issue, any societal issue, and if we're prioritizing, like, what can we do to help other people first, instead of how am I getting by, then, like, we can really shift things. We can change where the Overton window lies and actually reframe a lot of discussions. But capitalism, of course, gets in the way of that every single time. It keeps us down and out. It keeps us poor. It keeps us hungry, and it keeps us focused on ourselves. So, like, it's just everything's so damn interconnected. It's really difficult to, like, take empathy and work on that first, and then bring in, say, COVID safety, or believing in climate change, and looking at science, or like media literacy, or, you know, the intersection of religion in society.
Yeah, that's the way we have to do it now, is like applying it to things. Whereas, speaking of reframing things, we have to have a framework that we work from. Like, it has to be underlying. We don't just look at things and say, how do we help each other in this situation? We should already be in the space of, like, we help each other. We are together in this. And, like, then it's not so much of a, like, analysis from our fucked up, like, conditioning that we have from being in this system for so long. Is like, we already are working together to help each other. Like, then we can work to achieve it in the best way possible. And there's no, like, you know, in theory, there's no fucking convincing people, like, hey, don't do the thing that hurts your neighbor. I mean, it's literally love your neighbor as yourself. It's the golden rule. But, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like, it's so just like it's an Ouroboros. Like, it always just kind of, like, eats itself, where you just, when you think about this specific issue with empathy, you just always go in circles. And the ultimately, like, the only thing that we can really, like, extract from that discussion is to be like, okay, well, we have the same systemic issues that we recognize, but, you know, I think in terms of what we do first, it's education. It's education every single time. Like, the more people know, the more people can then go forth and, like, spread that knowledge to others. Like, that's what I think has been the most rewarding from Twitch streaming, is, like, I have a group of people who have the information in tow, and the willpower, and the political worldview to kind of take that information and utilize it in the way that it needs to be. And they go forth into the other communities that they occupy, and try to do the same thing. And, you know, we can talk about how quickly, you know, nonsense right-wing ideas get around, but, you know, we kind of need to start doing the same thing ourselves. Like, we need to, you know, love bomb people, hug them, welcome them into our circles, and educate them, and then compel them to go forth and, you know, bring more people into the fold. Like, we need to, I think, do less shit posting and more work. Like, we just need to actually focus on education, and trying to build people up and make them better for having, you know, participated in insert online space here. Because that way people can then go into their real life, do the same thing, and go into other Twitch streams or online spaces that they occupy and do the same thing. And I think the more that our collective sphere grows, I think the more agitation that we can do. I will say, I think 2 or 3 of my chatters have been banned from Hassan's chat for trying to do this. So it's like, I love the energy from those chatters. Like, I love them trying to compel him to be better, but
a badge of honor.
Yeah, literally, like, I think it's almost a badge of honor at that point. I mean, it was a temp ban, but, you know, it's difficult when, like, there's just a culture of people not giving a shit, when you know, when the moderators are calling people with long COVID smarmy. Like, that was really fucking weird. And I think it's just emblematic of the rot that's just so permeant across all spheres. I think, even regardless of political ideology. Like, that's why I focus on COVID so much, is because it is literally the lens through which we can reflect every single leftist talking point. Like, we can connect everything to COVID, and we can use it as a very good educational approach. It's almost an educational tool to, like, welcome people into the fold for leftist ideas. And to see, you know, an ostensible standard bearer, like, reject that concept of like addressing long COVID, addressing disability, not thinking about it, not wearing a mask, like that's just a sign that we have a lot more work to do. And these problems, even in our own leftist spaces, aren't going away anytime soon. Like we actually have to get people on the same page, and that's going to take years. And that's what's so difficult. It's like this is going to take years, and a lot of things getting a lot worse before we have enough like organizational capacity to get better.
Yeah, it's just like, well, I mean, how many years did it take for the fundamentalist evangelicals to take over the court system and eventually fucking overturn Roe v. Wade? It took decades. It was like
40 years.
Yeah. So it's like, if you want to see that kind of change, I mean, and they got lucky, let's be real. Like, they got lucky as fuck, but like, and there was a lot of bad choices from along the way from their opposition, we'll call them, that led to that. But again, they got lucky. So, but yeah, it's definitely has to be implemented. It's a long game, like, and long games require not only tenacity, but like this stamina, you know, like long suffering, I guess you could say. But yeah, I think one final thing, maybe we could wrap up here, is like, unless you have any other final thoughts, is you know, you're talking about less shit posting and that kind of thing, and like, I agree with that generally speaking. I mean, I wouldn't say that I've distanced myself from the politics community, because that sounds weird. It's just that, like, for one, I haven't had a lot of time for streaming lately, but it's more that, like, I have kind of come to the conclusion that, like, I need to network more, and we need to network more, because our circle is like, we kind of all know each other here, like, for the most part.
Oh, for sure.
And networking is going to require some level of like socialization beyond like the way that we're used to doing it. And so that's why I've like sort of leaned back more into my like performance side, musical side, and like that's all part of my background for a long time. It's also, I mean, it's also personal and selfish to some extent, right? Like, but I think that networking is super important, and figuring out ways that we can like bring people in, not in this like space where you're going to feel like, am I going to say the wrong thing, or am I going to blah, blah, blah? Like, you can come in here, you can get educated, like, if you feel like it. I mean, obviously we're still going to, you know, we're still going to have our safe spaces. We're still going to protect marginalized groups, and we're not going to tolerate intolerance, but like, we had to find the way to like expand on that, I guess. And that's kind of where my mind is at right now, I guess.
I mean, it's difficult because, like, you know, there are people in our sphere, like, I know that like their networking is certainly taking off, and you know, that's certainly something that you could like, you know, participate in and leverage. But you know, at least from my perspective, I think I had a very angry thread about this with respect to TwitchCon. That networking cannot come at the expense of disabled lives and the lives of people who are no longer disabled, who get out of who, you know, acquire a disability because of long COVID. Like, that was a massive super spreader where, you know, just by tracking Twitter posts and Twitch stream titles by itself, people were able to find at least 600 people who just admitted to having COVID from TwitchCon. And ostensibly, there's going to be many, many more from a 26,000 person event. So it's like, you know, people, and that's what TwitchCon is there for, right? It's supposed to be networking, it's supposed to be expanding those social circles, but you know, we also have to look at something like that. You know, there's a very real human cost that gets paid for such a networking thing when COVID's allowed to spread, and it's like, you know, I don't disagree with you in terms of like the broader education, like we need to get the word out more.
No,
like, I totally agree with you on that,
sure.
But it's more like, you know, for people like my vulnerable family, like those are the people who ultimately suffer for in-person events. So it's like, I'm not willing to make that trade of marginalized groups of people for fucking TwitchCon networking. So, you know, I really
that's
wish that,
one of
like,
the advantages of Twitch, and to some extent, is like, obviously if you're going to an event, that's a thing. But like, I also have a broadcasting background, and one of the things that I've always kind of observed in this space is that you have a lot of people working individually and not like necessarily putting on broadcasts that are technical and can like incorporate a lot of different types of content and a broader audience. And for the people who do it, like you do it, I do it, all of these people do it, and it's fucking crazy what they do. Of course, you know, they're plenty of people involved, mods, and like a whole community. They're all part of it as well. So it is a big group of people producing the content. But like, I think that like there's opportunity or potential to like expand that. And from a networking perspective, it goes hand in hand with the marketing thing. It's like, it doesn't have to be a super spreader, because we have this like awesome fucking virtual networking marketing capability that I think we could utilize even more effectively, I guess, is where I was kind of going with that. But I agree with you. That's kind of what I was getting at about marginalized communities, is like, even within this space, like, we're not going to tolerate people coming in here and like making people feel unsafe or making them unsafe in general, to whatever extent we can. And in a physical context, that would be like wearing fucking masks. And not having giant events, probably, right? At certain times.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if we just talk about harm reduction, which I know is, more liberal coded, but even if you just talk about harm reduction, if you just mandated masks at TwitchCon, like, you would probably have a lot less positives. Like, that's mandating one thing, which has cut a giant piece of harm out of such an event, and you can have your cake and you can eat it too.
And less people have acquired long-term disabilities. That seems pretty less,
It literally no reason not to do it, but then that goes back to, well, the CDC says, and then you have to, reason with people and say, okay, if the CDC told you to jump off a cliff, would you do it? Like, we can look at what facts are and look at regulatory capture and kind of have an educational moment about that. Yeah. But, going back to the networking idea, like, this is a platform where people are virtual by default. Like, that is the starting point for everything on Twitch is virtual. So, like, greater amounts of collaboration, I think, would absolutely do that. That's why I'm trying to make a broader sort of entrance into like the VTuber sphere, because there's a ton of marginalized people in there. I feel like every VTuber I meet is like a queer, trans, leftist. It's like, okay, cool, Pog, awesome. Another person that I can like talk to, and more mobilized people that we can like rally and mobilize. But like, there are just so many like corners and sectors of this platform that are like unexplored. I think that's what makes the platform good. Like, as much shit as I talk about it, I still think it has potential. Like, it has potential to reach people, not just for science communication, but for the work that you do, talking about media literacy, what is going into being a reporter, and then sort of taking that station that you come from, and if you're gonna sort of make a pivot for some of your content to be more music related, or like production based in terms of producing music related content, like, you can use your media training and your media experience to make that happen, reach a whole new group of people, and sort of rinse and repeat the cycle. So like, I like where your head's at. I think your head's in exactly the right place.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue the reporting stuff as well.
Oh yeah,
I still am reporting. So yeah, like, because I think I'm going to talk about that no matter what. Like, if anybody ever sends me a news article, the way I read it is like the editor. Like, I'm trying to like, why did you write it this way? I can't help myself but doing that. It's from terms of like, how did the journalist write it? So, I continue to do that, and I'm actively doing reporting, and I'm starting to think that we should do a story about long COVID in our community. I think it's been done before, but yeah. I mean,
keeping it in the media cycle is 100% a necessity. So like, I would encourage you to do that. And maybe even see if you can interview people, especially if like you already know of people who have it, you can check in with them and say like, have you gotten COVID again? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Or sort of survey the local population more broadly to be like, do you have any of these things going on? Did you test positive for COVID recently? How did you do afterwards? And I can give you some actual like peer-reviewed published criteria to kind of get a rough assessment of like, does this person actually have long COVID and not really realize it type of deal? Because there's a lot of people like that. We're like, yeah, no, I got COVID and everything was fine afterwards, except for this, and this. I don't have long COVID though. And it's like, excuse me, like your heart rate is highly dysregulated and like you can't stand up for more than 5 seconds. You have long COVID. What do you mean you don't have it? So I think the more people you talk to, the more of that you'll uncover. And I can give you more information if you like start to actually write a story like that and start to talk to people. I'll give you some questions to ask.
I just had an idea, like, and this may be part of a story or not, just like a general advocacy thing. I don't know, like, I know that you've done this before, but like, we have our public health nurse, one of them. I mean, would you be willing to talk to her with me, like there? I don't mean like on stream, but just like being like, this person maybe could answer your questions. They're credible. The place that they're coming from is like, I don't know who's talking to them. I know that you're good at talking about those things. I don't know. That might be interesting, or maybe you could I could tell you what they said and then respond to them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to leverage me to like talk to your local county people, we could probably make that happen at some point in time.
Yeah, I think that it could be. I think that it could be pretty significant. I mean, like, there's one county commissioner who I thought was reasonable until I heard him. I remember mentioning this to you. He like sort of outed himself as he had been anti-vax this whole time, and he just didn't have the guts to say it until the public health director, nurse of 2 years, had agreed with him. The new one, not the old one, who actually fought the county commissioners the entire time, like for years, to keep vaccinations and to advocate for masking and to get money to like pay the newspaper to run advertisements and like, yeah. So then as soon as he didn't have to deal with her, here he came. So I don't know. Like, I just wonder with him is like, can he be convinced? He's always speaking from this very political position, of like, I don't think the government should blah 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 try to take care of people's health. It's like, you do fucking believe that, dude. You're just saying
that. You're just advocating for the government to stop doing it and like for the government to promote your talking points. Like, you're no better than what you are decrying the current government for doing.
Yes,
and that's what's so frustrating is like, I've seen leftists on Twitch basically say the same thing, but saying, I'm not anti-vaccine, I just got my first two, even though I've never gotten another one since then. That type of deal. Like, I'm never getting a vaccine again. I got my first two. I'm good. But also, I love vaccines. Like,
I'm never getting one again.
You can't say these things. Like, your county commissioner guy is probably going to be like, well, government shouldn't be making more vaccines. That's ridiculous. The government has no place in health freedom. That kind of argumentation when it's like, okay, Doug, scientists and the government, they're two different people. Some scientists do work for the government, but like the scientists who made the vaccine are largely from private companies.
CDC, this, that, fucking whatever. It's all a bunch of theft.
Well, and like,
lies
that's
for whatever reason that I can't explain.
But like that's what's so good about that conversation is like, if he just goes full hog for everybody to see, like, that's just a mask off moment. Now you forced him to take the mask off and be a hog on full display. So it's like, you can work with that and be like, okay, so this is an example of what not to do because it actually does nothing to fix the problem, does nothing to address the situation or make people in your local community better. This is you exerting your political views in a local county commissioner meeting. That's not actually helping the problem. You're more or less just saying local government should trump federal government because your opinion matters more, and you're doing the exact thing you're yelling about.
Yes, and you're basing your information off of, hey, did you know that thing she told you? We found it online where it came from. Here, look at this.
Okay, actually, you'll appreciate this. I'll have this be my last thing because I don't know if you have anybody coming on after me. But
Read and Rap asked us to review an article. I don't think we do have time, Read and Rap, but we should definitely. Or is it a joke? If it's Read and Rap, it could easily be a joke.
It could be a Milky Mommy joke potentially. That's usually Read and Rap standard fare.
Honestly, it's always potential. Is it even here still? Did it get deleted? Whatever. Anyway, sorry. What was going to be your last thing? Or you said?
You will appreciate this. The United Kingdom has been having a government-wide COVID inquiry where they've been looking into how their government responded when COVID first hit. And I really wish the US would have our own equivalent because it would be very illuminating. I don't think we will, but one of the many things revealed about Boris Johnson, and I think you remember the whole Trump said we should inject bleach and shine UV light into people's lungs type of shit.
How could I forget?
Yeah, Boris Johnson had one of those moments of his own, but instead of injecting bleach or UV light in your lungs, Boris Johnson said in private in WhatsApp text messages with his other ministers and stuff that you could take a hairdryer and turn it to the hottest setting and blow it up your nose, and that would work to kill COVID. And when the COVID inquiry looked into this, they found out that Boris Johnson got it from Okeechobee County, Florida county commissioner hearing, where some random hog on that county commission brought that up, and then that hog got it from OAN. So essentially, Boris Johnson indirectly got a talking point from One American News Network about shoving a blow dryer up your nose to kill COVID, and told it to all of his government ministers. So it's If you ever feel like the local reporting is not important, realize that the whole prime minister of a fucking country got radicalized because of Okeechobee County, Florida.
I often feel that I don't feel that it's not important, but I often feel extremely discouraged when like we're all this time later, Tim Bob, thank you for gifting another sub to Cat, by the way. All this time later, after we've seen the recall of this one crazy county commissioner who is such an asshole to everyone publicly, which is a big part of why he got recalled. Like, and suddenly it's like, oh, I can see clearly now. But then, you know, that public health director, understandably, thank you for gifting a sub to Undying Fan as well, Tim Bob. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That public health director, understandably, left because she was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. And I'm like, I'm almost there. I might follow you on that. I just, like, how many times? But I don't know. I guess I'm still here, so I'm not fully ready to fucking give up on these people. Hey guys, COVID's real.
Yeah, and that's what sucks is like you almost have to depersonalize from it and just be like, yep, I'm just out here doing a job and I did it. And regardless of whether or not you get with the program, I'm going to keep letting people know that you're not with the program.
I think streaming has helped me with that. Like, just because I'm kind of like, it helps me stay sane in the same way that your content did, or, you know, upon initially discovering it, as like, oh, thank God. Like, I was just like, thank God. Like, because I don't have to sit there, and for me, it's so much harder to debunk some of these things. All the work that I have to do, like the heavy lift, and you can just be like, nope, I know this, the context, and I'm like, oh, it's just like, it's soothing for my brain, which has been like worrying, trying to figure out all the shit I don't know anything about, to explain it to people. But I mean, I guess that's my job. It's just like, there becomes a frustration on a lot of repetition, but you seem to be pretty patient. I haven't seen you like blow up on someone, you know, you just like, I don't know how you do it, but I commend you, honestly. Like, I really admire your communication skills and like ability to deal with various kinds of, you know, repeated questions of, you know, varying levels of intelligence. And yeah. So yeah,
thank you.
I
Thank you for the
appreciate it
kind
a lot,
words.
and I hope that everybody goes and follows Homozygoat if you don't already. I hope that you get partnered very soon, because I think that you're very deserving of that. And I wish you luck in your final. I don't know, how much longer do you have till you're done with school, or is that even a question that I should ask?
No. I mean, that's a totally fair question. I think at this point, the hope is that I'm trying to push to graduate by May, but that just depends on how well the experiments work. And some things are going well, other things not quite so much. There's still some technical troubleshooting to do. So it's like, I have a feeling I might kind of eep into the summer a little bit, but I think even if I like graduate, say in the middle or even the end of the summer, we're talking earlier than program average, because May will be the like 5-year mark, and the average graduation time for my program is 5.5. So if I graduate before the end of next year, before the end of 2024, I'm graduating ahead of time, and that's really what I care most about. But if things go well, I might be able to do it before summer begins. So fingers crossed, I can make that happen.
I mean,
we will see.
I hope so. If you know, if karma's real, then it would definitely happen. But I don't know.
I'm not sure how much I believe in karma at this point. Sometimes karma is like, yep, I'm here, and other times it's like, can you please take Henry Kissinger already? What are you doing?
For the love of God,
take him now.
Yo, real. Here, let's just go to one thing that I didn't actually get to show. I didn't even watch it yet. I don't think I've seen this one. This is your promotional video that Sarah made, that featuring.
Oh, hell clips.
Yeah. That's some of them for me. I'm not sure where all of them come from, but Sarah wants a cookie put this together, just like all of the, you know, this extra content that we've seen. We'll end with that. I guess we could say bye now, if that works for you.
Yeah, totally. First of all, thank you for having me. I always am appreciative when people are willing to platform science, since that actually seems to be a pretty difficult concept for people to wrap their head around these days. And second of all, of course, like all of this being a big event for people to hopefully help you out. So I'm hoping throughout the course of your stream, you've had people come together to sort of help lift you up when you need it. So fingers crossed, you get at least what you need to get by for the time being, and hopefully we can expand your reach and grow your community, so that way you have a little bit more stability, so you can do the things that you need and want to do.
I mean, you're saying it better than I could have said it. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Absolutely, anytime. And yeah, I'd love to talk again in the future.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you always know where to find me, but I'll make it a point to pop by more often and check in and see how you're doing.
Alrighty, same to you. Have a great night, and
yeah, but I hope the rest of your stream goes well. And Chad, if you can, certainly help out with Levelhead. Be generous with your hearts and with your wallets. So have a good rest of your stream, dude. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye. Thank you.
Like we're on a bus, school bus, yo, yeah, make a new sound with it. I don't know, but I'm walking all around in it. How'd you walk around in your own brain? Are you crazy? Said I was insane, so don't make me repeat that daily.